That's an experience I had a lot being at the new school. Like, I'm in this classroom, but I'm also a part of the world doing this work. You know, I think one of the things that I really appreciated about being at Lang was the space that I was given to have a certain level of freedom. Like, I really created the structure of what I wanted my education to look like. Right now, I'm working on doing a lot of performance art that really steeped in breaking down archetypes, specifically women of color, and specifically the way they're depicted in the media.
It actually started before Lang with a high school teacher giving me a copy of Robert Heilbronner's book, just one of the many great writers who taught at the New School. And I wanted to study under people who wanted to look at things in a different way. I work for the Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO here in New York. What I do is help to craft policies that will lift our economy from the bottom up and middle out and create a sustainable economy that works for everybody and not just the top 1%.
25 years later and 4 degrees later, I can safely say that Eugene Lang was the greatest intellectual experience of my life.
You know, in our political discourse today, we're not so much talking to each other, but at each other. And I think that Lang gave me the ability and the skill sets, quite frankly, to sit down and to hear somebody else's position and to really rectify their position and my own and find a common ground that we can move forward on.
Hi, I'm Brittany Charlton, Eugene Lang College class of 2007. I'm coming to you from Harvard Medical School, where I'm now a postdoctoral fellow in epidemiology. Faculty like Laura Liu and Ann Snittel mentored me through projects while I was at Lang documenting transgender hate crimes, which laid the groundwork for my current research.
Kind of place where you're really given the opportunity to grow as an individual and grow as an artist and grow as a thinker, and I really value and appreciate that, and I carry that with me now.
I would hope that the future of Lang is a place that embraces its activist roots, that is able to take the energy of a lot of the students who want to be change agents and finds an outlet for them to create that change.
I think that I can continue to be a part of the growth of the New School by continuing to do the work that I do, continuing to be really critical, continuing to have those tough conversations.
I think the future of the New School is an institution where the students and the faculty and people who want to change the world and change their communities and change their workplace can come and can discuss big ideas, and that I hope this can be a bastion of free thought as it has been and will be in the future. The real benefit of the Lang education is being able to ask yourself on a regular basis, why do you think that?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to have you here. My name is David Van Zandt. I'm the president of the New School, and it's my great honor to be able to welcome all of you here. Now, you're going to hear in the next couple of hours from many of your deans, your faculty, and staff about the Lang programs, what's available here. What I'd like to say to all of you is congratulations. Congratulations for being admitted to the new school. And that applies both to the students and their parents. You are a special group. We look for students who have two things. One, a high level of creativity, and two, a desire to use that creativity to make the world a better place. And that's what you are. And we call you engaged innovators. And we look forward to working with you and to watch your careers as you go through your life. Now, the new school is a great place to take advantage of those special talents that you bring here. This is the only university in the world that has a large and comprehensive design school, Parsons, at the center of a very strong humanities, social sciences, as well as performing arts and in management teaching. And you're going to need that because you're going to need a very broad-based education as you go out into the world. The world today demands flexibility. It demands the ability to work on cross-disciplinary teams. It demands the ability to solve very complex problems. And we are going to help you. We're going to help you do that through your time here at Lang. Finally, what makes me most proud about Lang in the new school itself? Well, part of it is the facilities. They're quite beautiful, as you can tell. But I think far more important are the people here. And in particular, our faculty, who are tremendous, who care about you day in and day out. And finally, each other. And what I'd ask you to do during the course of this day is get to know each other, talk to each other. You're going to be in class together. You can see what an amazing person is sitting right next to you. You're going to want to meet that person and know that person through your time here. So, again, welcome to everyone. And I look very much forward in the fall to welcoming all of you back here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Browner, and I'm the Dean of Eugene Lang College. Welcome. So you're thinking about college. You're thinking about where you want to study. And what you're actually thinking about is a very simple human activity called learning. Humans learn all the time. In fact, we never stop learning, regardless of our age. But at this moment, you are thinking very intentionally about your learning, and you're looking and thinking about colleges and how we structure your learning for you. Is this the right structure for you? So you've been on our website, you've been talking to people. This is a day where you really get to dig a little deeper. Students will be going to a mock seminar, a hallmark of how we structure learning here. But I thought today, for just a few minutes, I would tell you what our alumni have been telling us. So we survey our alumni, and we did a very comprehensive survey about 2 years ago. And at the new school and at Lang, we don't just ask Likert-based questions. We don't say, did you like X or Y? Scale it 1 to 7. We ask open-ended questions. We turn our questionnaires into seminars, and Lang alumni, in response, spoke and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote a lot. We basically have catch-22 length comments about their experience here. But then we turned it into data, and we found out the top reasons why they wanted to come here and what they valued. Number one reason, and this may resonate with many of you in the room, for their interest initially in coming to the new school and studying at Lang is New York City. They wanted to come to this city. We know that. We are in the city, but we're not just in the city. Yes, you experience that sense as you go to class. You're not on a campus. You're walking through a very diverse city, a very lively, vibrant city. But we bring the city into the classroom. So yes, you will have internships in the city. You will work in the city. You will have friends who aren't at this university. But we, in a very intentional way, make sure the city comes into our classroom. One example of how we do that, we have a suite of courses, 20 courses every year. And those courses are team taught with a professor and someone from an organization in the city. So you get a deeper dive into what that organization is all about. 3 examples. We have a team-taught course for the last couple of years. They change every year, between a philosophy professor and an editor at the New York Times, Peter Catapano. Peter, when he got into our program and was going to teach this team-taught course, undergraduate course with a philosophy professor, told me he was so thrilled. He'd always wanted to teach at the new school. I said, that's cool, because I always wanted a New York Times editor in one of our classrooms. And so he and the professor team taught a course. And what happens is you learn that the liberal arts are relevant. because an editor at the New York Times wants to be in the classroom thinking about philosophy with the philosophy professor, because the kinds of questions and how you think in a philosophy class does matter and is fundamental to being a good journalist, it turns out. Another team-taught course paired someone from our visual studies department with a curator from the Whitney Museum. Our neighbor museum, students go there, the professor, the curator are in the classroom together, and you get a deep sense of what does it mean to curate? What does it mean to select art and put together a show for a city, for a nation, for a world that speaks in the way the Whitney really is committed to speaking to and powerfully to issues today and drawing upon the artwork, primarily American artwork. The third example I'll give you is a course that was teamed out with someone from our environmental studies in Brooklyn Grange, which is there's the picture, which is the premier organization on rooftop gardens, both for research and for policy. Rooftop gardens are fundamental to New York City's plan to be a more sustainable city. It's part of our commitment. Several mayors in a row have had a commitment to increasing rooftop gardens because they help to absorb rainwater, which means we have less of a problem with rainwater runoff, stormwater runoff, which means we don't dump the city's sewage into the river. And in this class, our students were out at Brooklyn Grange doing research there, working with those scientists, and also staying closely connected with our professor here so that then internships come out of this, research projects come out of this, and jobs come out of this. So those are just a few examples of how we take the city, which is all around us and woven into everything we do, part of our public programming. When it's UN Week in New York City, world leaders are speaking at the New School. President of Ecuador, president of, you name it. They like to speak when they're in New York, and we always bring a few down here. That's the number one reason students say, at least the alumni said, I first was interested. The second reason is, in terms of Lang, that we are part of a university. We are not a standalone liberal arts college. We are inside the New School. And what I really want to say today is welcome to Lang and welcome to the New School. The entire university is yours. We have university-wide minors. You can minor in photography, data visualization, capitalism studies, fashion studies, immersive storytelling, creative entrepreneurship, and on and on. So all the colleges create minors, and you have access to all of those. So while you enter through the door of Lang, and Lang is your home, and it's good to have a home, the whole university is yours. The public programming, the minors, courses, faculty, we are in fact one university. And you have a nice strong home at Lang. The third reason, and these are all what I call structural reasons. So one is the city, the second is the university, and the third is the open curriculum. You heard in that video several students talking about how they could design their studies the way they wanted. The open curriculum is actually a movement that started in the United States in the 1960s, and about 15 colleges sort of claim this commitment to an open curriculum. What it means here is that we take you very seriously as a learner. We believe you have questions that motivate you, that you are passionate about, and that you should choose courses accordingly. You will be advised. We do have majors. We also have a self-designed major, and there are minors, and all these programs have requirements, but there is enough openness in this curriculum, and even the majors are sufficiently open, that you really do, each semester, look at the course catalog and decide what to take. I advise, one of my advisees just set up his schedule for the fall. He'll be a sophomore, and he's taking Shakespeare, human rights, relativism or universalism. So it's a politics class thinking about is human rights a relative question and just depends on the culture, or is there some sort of universal wide theme there? So a lit course, a politics class. His third class is from the psychology department, Introduction to Neuroscience. And his fourth course comes out of urban studies, and it's called Harlem, Hip Hop, and Education. That's a kind of classic Lang schedule for your second year here. A lot of breadth, a lot of really interesting, tough questions. And that's what you can do in an open curriculum. You can design your own major, you can follow one of our majors, but there's a real chance to ask your questions and to pursue them. And we take that very seriously. So those are three structural reasons our alumni told us they came and what they valued here. But they also wrote extensively about the human relationships that happened here. One of them is with peers, and that happens in the seminar classroom. We are a seminar-based college, which means students sit at the table, you saw a lot of those pictures, and they talk to one another. They read, they write, they talk, they listen. So I've taught at other colleges, I've worked other places, and I came to Lang 7 years ago. I walked into my first seminar classroom, I thought, I know how to teach a seminar. And the students grabbed the conversation from me in a way I had never experienced. And I also have watched how upper class students teach the entering students little phrases like, building on what she just said. So it's not just talking to the teacher. It's about listening with compassion, with curiosity, with courage and openness, and then speaking with that same level of respect and honesty and rigor. It's kind of a remarkable phenomenon. I am moved every semester. I teach once a year. In that semester I'm teaching, I am deeply moved by the kind of integrity my students bring, not just with regard to the content or to me, but to one another. The other human relationship that is fundamentally important is with the faculty. These small classes allow students to know faculty. And yes, humans learn. We teach ourselves all the time. We learn from books, learn from peers. But there's something, and parents and family and friends know this, there's something very powerful when the person you're learning with cares about you and your well-being. Human learning just blossoms when you have people around you who care about you, who take an interest in how you learn, what are your questions, what are your passions, and that's what we can do here in our small classes. There's a real seriousness about that learning is actually very individual and motivated by all kinds of different interests, questions, and that continues to change over a semester, over 4 years at a college. And it is the relationships with faculty that the alumni wrote most about. So some of these alumni had been out 20 years and they wrote, I'll never forget reading, they named the text they were reading, with so-and-so, and we talked about such and such. A genuine connection with faculty, between students and faculty here, and that's fundamentally, I would say, speaks about our commitment to human learning as something that is not factory, cookie cutter, this is what you take, this is what you study, these are the outcomes, we know where you're headed, we will send you there. Our job is to know you, care about you, challenge you. This is a rigorous program. These are demanding classes. In a seminar, you can't hide in the back. Everyone's at the table. And remarkably, that means people do their reading and think about what they've read and take that into dialogue. That's what we do at Lang. That's what we do with our hearts and our minds, with our students and with one another. And our alumni go out and do great things. I have the pleasure today, it's the first time I get to announce this, on Admitted Students Day, is just last week we learned that one of our fairly recent alums won a Pulitzer for her essay in GQ about Dylan Roof, what happened in the church basement, the shooting there. Our alumni are journalists, they are writers, they are activists. We have alum working as advocates for student literacy. You saw Alex Gleason up there. He works for the AFL-CIO. They're working in politics. They are scientists. They are professors at Chicago, Berkeley, Temple. They go on to be dancers, artists, start their own businesses. We used to have our winter party for current Lang students and alums out at a great bar started by a Lang alum. If you know the Brooklyn Flea and the Williamsburg, the sort of organizations in Brooklyn that are really cool and interesting places for selling and for eating, started by a Lang alum. So incredible creativity here that students develop while they're here and tap everything we have and take it out. That's who we are. That's what you'll learn about today. We have some more people coming up, students, current students, alumni, and faculty to tell you a little bit more about Lang. Once again, congratulations on being admitted. We admitted you because we think you're a good match for us. Make sure you get your questions answered today, and welcome. Thank you.
I hope for a college where intellectual discussion may not only begin in the classroom, but extend far beyond. So that's something that I wrote in my admissions essay, and I feel that it really is held true for my experience at the new school. I knew that I didn't really want a traditional college experience. I didn't want to go to a big state school like most people from my high school were doing. So I really wanted more independence in my experience. I think one thing that really sets Lang apart from a lot of liberal arts colleges is that the class sizes are very small. I think that most colleges kind of try to advertise that, but they've been very small at Lang, which has really been great, especially in the journalism department. I've been able to get such detailed feedback from all of my teachers, even outside of class. At Lang, I'm majoring in journalism and design. I think that the way that the journalism and design program ties in with Parsons is really interesting because of the emphasis that they put on design thinking within video, within data visualization, within writing. Really thinking about the reader, thinking about the audience has been a really powerful experience and something that I think that a lot of journalism programs at other universities lack, which I think is an issue, especially now when getting accurate news and keeping people engaged is so important and so hard to do. I've gotten to work and write on a really wide range of topics. I recently did a piece after the Women's March about the role of women's bodies in protest and how that impacted the trans community. One of my final projects was on stop and frisk and what changes the NYPD has made since stop and frisk was deemed unconstitutional in 2013. So that was a really interesting piece to work on because of all the data that came into it and really being able to look at all these huge spreadsheets, which I didn't think were something that would interest me, but were actually really interesting to look at and be able to find the story that's in them. I think since coming to the new school, I've definitely become a lot more independent. I think I've definitely become more driven because now I know what I want to study, and that's definitely motivated me to work harder because I know what I'm working towards.
Welcome. I'm Ann Yust. I'm a professor in the Natural Sciences and Mathematics department. A little shout out to Earth Day. I imagine that you all decided to come to Lang to take a class with me. I didn't even get to the punchline yet. A mathematician. Okay, well, like many of you, this is where my what makes Lang story starts. With a first-year student who didn't intend to take a class taught by a mathematician. This student was enrolled in my first-year seminar course. And in the Lang tradition, the title of this course was extremely nondescript, but really fun and flashy. It's called the Simulation Games: Death, Disease, Denial, and Drugs. Who doesn't want to take that class, right? Yeah, exactly. And to further shroud the first-year seminar in mystery, we don't specifically indicate the department of the instructor, for a good reason. Okay, so in this course, what we do in this course is we create algorithmic models or simulations of social and physical phenomena. So death, we made world population models. Disease, we looked at the spread of infectious diseases. In denial, we looked at social media filters that blind us to a large subset of news reports, fake or otherwise. And drugs, where we predicted the concentration of a drug in a body given a dosing schedule. In the course description, I specifically state, and I quote, "A major focus of this course will be coding mathematical simulations." That's important to remember. Okay, we're talking about a Lang student here though, right? So this student taking my first year seminar class, so super motivated to learn, extremely creative, like David said, and intellectually curious, right? Like all of you who are going to join us in the fall. Yet, like many first-year students, super motivated to learn about stuff that already interested in them, extremely creative when designing stuff that they had already thought about designing, and intellectually curious about stuff that they already thought that they were curious in. So I check in with these students multiple times a year. I'm also their advisor as their first-year seminar instructor. And at a checkpoint near the end of the semester, the student relayed to me that they were quite resistant to, read annoyed at / hated the coding at the start of the course. And as it turns out, they revealed sheepishly to me that they hadn't read the course description very carefully. Here's a pro tip. Read the course descriptions very carefully. And they missed the part that said, a major focus of this course will be coding mathematical simulations. But it turns out once we hit a topic in the course that they had previously been interested in, specifically the disease module, so the spread of infectious disease, we focused on a super critical threat to the world, as indicated by the CDC website, the spread of zombieism. And yeah, I'm not joking. Like, the CDC has multiple web pages devoted to the control of the zombie threat. Look it up, Google it. It's there. So they used that enthusiasm to dive deep into the coding in order to create a really awesome simulation. It's really great. And that's when they realized how cool coding is and how powerful it can be when used as a tool, right? If they're interested in social and physical phenomena, how powerful it really is. And after that point, they were super motivated to learn about coding, extremely creative when designing algorithms, and intellectually curious about simulating social and physical phenomena. So my story here is really about that Lang is about learning to get excited about learning, about everything, not just about stuff that you think you're going to be excited to learn about. Thanks.
It's a hard act to follow. I'll try to, maybe I'll just trip and make you laugh that way. So my name is Zed Adams. I'm a philosophy professor here at Lang, and they've asked me today to tell you about a specific Lang moment that speaks for the whole of my experience at Lang. And that's a pretty hard thing to do, but I'll try to tell you one story that does that for me. When I first came here, I had a fairly bifurcated view of the relationship between research and teaching. So I thought, on the one hand, when you think about research, you think about very narrowly defined topics that are like preposterously focused on just like very specific things. They are, in a very literal sense, idiosyncratic in that they involve really peculiar interests that, only a few people in the world have. So that's research on the one hand. On the other hand, I think one of the overarching goals of teaching is to try to convey something general or universal. You really have an obligation to your students to try to do that. And so I really kept these two parts of my life very separate. And so, for example, at the time I was actually researching a book on the 17th century history of color science and the window that gives us into how figures like Descartes think about the mind and its relation to the world. And as I said, that seems like a fairly kind of peculiar, idiosyncratic thing. But at the same time, I was teaching a class on the philosophy of mind, and in the class, I would occasionally use color experience as just a paradigmatic example of like conscious experience. And the funniest thing happened. I had a student come to me after class and say, you keep bringing up color experience, and that is such an interesting question. Like, what is it like to experience colors, and how much can we really know about how other people experience colors? Would it be possible to do an independent study on that topic with you? And I was like, sure, that would be great. That would be really fun. And then a week later, another student came and asked virtually the same thing. And then a third student came and asked the same thing. And I immediately thought, like, okay, well, rather than do 3 different independent studies, maybe this is something interesting to people beyond myself. And so I put together a class that I called The Illusion of Color, which I then offered. And it was immediately over-enrolled, actually. And now I'm teaching here for the third time, and it's really been wonderful. And so that, for me, speaks to my experience here, because it's been an experience of finding a community of people who are brought together by nothing more than a shared sense of curiosity and enthusiasm for exploring what to many people seem like very peculiar topics. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone feeling? Good? Yay, congratulations. And also congratulations not only for getting in, but first of all, for thinking about the new school. My name is Thalia Porteny, and I'm originally from Mexico City. And I know how many of you are feeling, right? The prospective students, the parents. This is scary. It's a scary time. It's also very exciting. And I remember when I got into the new school, I really didn't know what I was going to major in. In Mexico City, I received a really amazing education. I had fantastic professors. I was very into Russian literature at the time. I thought I was going to come here and study history, philosophy. But guess what? That changed. And things changed when I took this phenomenal class by Katayun Shamani. Here's Katayun. Come to Lang, take a class with Katayun. It'll change your life. And for me, I really had this preconceived notion of myself that I wasn't very good at math, that I would never understand science. But I took this class with Katayun, and for the first time in my life, I thought, wow, biology, science, it's awesome. It's really something mind-blowing. It's really related to philosophy. It's really related to history. I learned about how a point mutation in the influenza virus changes world history, economics, and the world. And that to me was mind-blowing. And just as an example of how the faculty truly connect with students here, I remember when I took my final in that class, I think Katayun actually left the classroom, which was a first for me at the time. And she let students write, I don't even remember if it was timed or not, but she said, when you're done, walk into my office, I'm gonna read your test, and I just wanna make sure I'm understanding what you're trying to tell me. And that was amazing. And I think, I don't remember how long I was there, maybe 20 minutes, but Katayun made sure that she was understanding what I was trying to tell her of my understanding of science. That doesn't mean I got an A, but I worked hard, and I kept working hard in science and math. I took phenomenal classes. I double majored in interdisciplinary science and psychology, and I realized that I wanted to do public health. So I went back to Mexico, I worked for the government, for the Ministry of Health, and then I got into grad school. I got into Harvard, which, believe me, when I was in high school, is something that I never thought was possible, ever. And now that I'm at Harvard, I'm teaching as well, and I want to be a professor too. And one of the evaluations that I got from one of my students was, Thalia really listens, and she lets discussions be guided by students. And I think that relates back to what Stephanie was saying. That's something that I learned here. I couldn't think of a better place for me to have come to college. I truly, truly think it's a remarkable institution, the faculty, the students. So I highly encourage you to come here. It's really a place where you become, I can't even put it in words, but you take life for you. You kind of guide your course. You know what I mean? I hope that you get what I'm saying. Yeah, thank you. That's all I had to say.
Oh, that's the biggest I've seen my name ever. Someone Instagrammed that for me. Okay, so hi everyone. Congratulations to all the admitted students. And the specific Lang moment I want to talk to you about, this happened in the summer of 2015 when I was a sophomore and I was back in India for the summer break. I was volunteering for an NGO in Rajasthan, and our assignment was to survey the government-run schools way back in the sandy expanses of Jaipur. It was a push for bureaucratic transparency, and I was amped up after I read a bunch of social justice material over freshman year. The thought of roaming around villages, having no idea where you'll sleep or what you'll eat, being around complete strangers, visiting schools, talking to kids, their parents, and the teachers, reporting all the good, bad, and ugly that we could find. Sure, that felt cool. Definitely sounds meaningful, right? Well, on the morning of my 4th day in Rajasthan, that coolness started to burn in the searing heat. Slowly, my new reality was setting in. I'm in a rickety Jeep, squished with 13 other passengers. We cruise over an endless road, kicking up a cloud of dust and gravel as we go. A man in front of me feels like making small talk. As I finish giving him my introduction and telling him my cause for volunteering, the man just nods and says in a deadpan tone, "Why are you wasting your life here?" That response is not something that I was prepared for. I open my mouth and try to muster a complete sentence when thankfully another volunteer takes over the conversation. So we proceed, and I couldn't get the man's words out of my head. I begin to question myself. What am I doing here? Am I really wasting my time? I don't belong here. The notion of helping kids in villages to get a proper education wasn't in my top 50 thoughts. I was barely into my sophomore year of college. Spiked up on testosterone and struggling with teenage nostalgia, I only thought about getting a degree and then, with any luck, a job. I got it though. So, there were the occasional thoughts of Lamborghinis and big houses, and then the rare thought of how I forgot to get my mom a present for Mother's Day. I'm not ideal, but nobody is perfect. But that's what Lang really taught me. Critical thinking and being introspective so that you can go beyond self-interest. I continued after that conversation, and after some more internal struggle, a funny thing happened. I began to enjoy the madness around me. I got to my 5th day. I rode a dilapidated bus with a goat sitting next to me. There were things happening that didn't ordinarily happen to me. I was roaming a desert with strangers, and I was enjoying it. Kids were the best part of the trip. I went to about 50 schools in my whole journey, and I was fascinated by the children. Most of the schools had no restrooms, no proper classrooms, barely any teachers, but the kids, they were fighting through all these issues with big smiles on their faces. Really, really big smiles. Thinking back to that man's piercing question in the Jeep, I no longer feel needled by his cynicism. Like Holden Caulfield from The Catcher in the Rye, I thought that I could be a hero and catch these kids before they fell. But I soon realized that these kids didn't have to be rescued. They just wanted to have their voices heard. People like me are everywhere at Lang, and we play an essential role in holding institutions accountable. Asking questions and experiencing the world, the real world, is the way we will grow and to be a more connected, more prosperous society. And in seeking that future, I didn't waste a moment. And neither will any of you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome, congratulations. My name is Mario and I come from Athens, Greece, as you can see. So Eugene Lang has been my home away from home, and I'm sure that many of you come from different places, so I can reassure you that this place is a very safe place for all of you, and it will be, I guess, your home in the fall. So Lang has been the place that has overall saved my world outlook, and the understanding of global issues and the way they are being examined in New York is just very different from how they're being examined in other places and definitely Europe. As such, I wouldn't be able to understand the world the way I do today without joining the new school. The education that you are going to receive at Eugene Lang can only be described as unique. So today I was asked to talk to you about a moment that encapsulates my experience here. For me, that was participating in the United Nations Summer Study Program last summer. That is a new school program that studies the United Nations as an organization and allows students to develop their own policy papers. So last summer I joined a team of 4 graduate students, and together we worked on a policy paper with regards to combating terrorism in Somalia and Sierra Leone. There's a special UN funding source to help women escapees from terrorism, but except for certain countries. So what we did was that we argued that women who escape from terrorist organizations in those countries, they have exactly the same experiences as others who do not have access to that fund. So we worked on that project and we submitted it to the UN Women and the United Nations Counter-Terrorism Executive Directorate, and they are currently considering it for implementation. So this was really important for me and my understanding of terrorism and complex international issues. I personally would like to continue in policy making, so that experience gave me practical skills of writing a full developed policy paper. But it also gave me a better understanding of different issues from around the world and how much time it takes to seriously understand those issues and how careful you need to be when you're advocating for people that you've never met and issues that you were not aware before. Going through the UN summer program, so when I returned to school in fall 2017, I joined the debate team here at the New School, an amazing team that you should all join. And I also ran for as a student senator because I wanted to be able to advocating for students here at our school. This is a very different context, of course, from advocating for women in countries such as Somalia and Sierra Leone, but what I would tell you, apart from saying once again congratulations to all of you, is that this school is a great platform for you to use that education and make a change in this world. And you should definitely use this school in the best way possible. This is your platform. Congratulations once again. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Grace Song. I have been majoring in history and while double minoring in politics and museum and curatorial studies. It's a mouthful, I know. I always have trouble saying it in class. But my major and my minors speak to what you are able to accomplish here at Lang. So during my 4 years here, the most formative activity I have done was joining the policy debate team, just as Mario's mentioned. The debate team here at Lang is supported by the Civic Engagement and Social Justice Department, as compared to other universities where the debate team just exists on its own. This is because the debate team here at Lang is very deeply tied with enacting civic engagement and social justice. So the debate team has made me think about praxis. Praxis is when you take the theories learned and you put them into practice. Praxis is very important to many of the professors here at Lang, and it is something that professors want you to get out of their classes and their teachings. So policy debate has allowed me to engage in praxis. So although we never get to pass any real policies, what policy debate here at Lang has allowed me to realize is that the interactions that I have every day is what creates the real change. Praxis only works when the individual realizes that it starts from how they engage day to day. Through a more critical look into feminist theories, art theories, and race theories, and my place in civil society, I am able to say with confidence that I am now able to engage in praxis. Lang gave me that. You can't get that anywhere else. So my 4 years here have been very special, and I'm so sad that I'm going to have to be leaving Lang. Although, as you can see, I will be continuing on with historical studies at NSSR. But you know what? I am so happy and excited that yours is just beginning. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Dawkins, and I am the director of the Office of Civic Engagement and Social Justice. Proudly supports the debate team here. I'm going to share a little bit about what my office does and what role social justice plays here at Lang. So, civic engagement and social justice, we call it CESJ. We design, support, and facilitate justice-centered learning communities, and we do that by producing curricula, events, projects, and dialogues on campus and in the wider community. One of the programs that we run is called the Goral Scholars. It's the most intensive program, and it runs as a scholarship multi-year. So it's more than just a scholarship. It's actually a commitment to social justice theory and praxis. Each cohort looks at a different topic throughout the entire year and then puts it into practice in some form. Last year, a cohort looked at Indigenous rights, Indigenous Americans' rights, and really used Standing Rock as a case study. This year, they were looking at food justice and brought in a transgender activist who runs a catering business and provides food to homeless youth. Another program that we run is the Student Mini Grants. This is one of my favorites because students get to think about what they're interested in, what they're passionate in, and then write a proposal and submit it to the office. And then they get funding and advising and support to actually carry it out. One of my favorites was the Dalit Black Panther co-event, and it was looking at these two globally disparate movements and trying to build solidarity across countries and across ethnicities and cultures. Another program is the Summer Fellows, where if you obtain an internship with a social justice organization, you can get support over the summer to actually work there. One of my favorite cases of a summer fellow started as a summer fellowship with New Inc., which is a social justice incubator in New York City. She started as a summer intern, then continued for the rest of her college career. She's now about to graduate and is going to continue working there. So that's an opportunity that started out as a summer fellowship here. The newest program is the Lang Prison Initiative. This year, we just started teaching the first accredited college courses in a federal jail in New York City. In the fall, we're going to start having combined courses with Lang students, taking classes with their incarcerated students inside the federal jail. So these are just a sampling of the programs and opportunities that are available through civic engagement and social justice. Our tagline that was developed by students is "Dope People, Dope Politics." So I encourage you, when you come to Lang, seek me out, and we can talk about what that will mean for you. Thanks.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candace McCluskey. I'm the Director of Admission for Eugene Lang College of Liberal Arts. On behalf of the admission committee, I really just want to congratulate all of the admitted students in the room, as well as congratulate the parents, too. This is a big accomplishment. You put a lot of work into this, too, I'm sure, a lot of support. So just a round of applause to both the students and to the parents in the room. So I'm going to not take up all that much of your time. You've heard a lot from me via email, over the phone, in person already, and I know that there's so many more great conversations that can be had the rest of the afternoon. So I'm just going to give you a few next steps about the process should you want to join us this fall, which I hope you do, and then I'll give you instructions as to what the rest of the day is going to look like. So first things first, if you do want to call the new school your home over the next 4 years, you do need to submit your tuition deposit. For the vast majority of you in the room today, that deadline is May 1st. If there's any transfer students in the room, your deadline might differ a little bit, so check your offer of admission. You'll find that information located there. If you'd like to live on housing, you do need to apply for housing. The deadline is June 15th. There is an application and a non-refundable deposit that you have to put down as well to live on campus, so be sure you do that. Again, the deadline is June 15th. We will notify students of their placement in housing towards the end of the summer. Move-in dates are August 19th and 20th, but do not book your flights yet. We do have to assign you a date and split you up via the alphabet. So it will be either the 19th or the 20th, depending upon your last name. And then new student orientation will run from move-in weekend through the first day of classes. The first day of classes is Monday, August 27th. So that's sort of what you have to look forward to. One thing I will say is once you do submit your tuition deposit, please be sure to follow the instructions that you get via email. You're going to get an email confirmation a few days after you submit your deposit with a few next steps. Please look at those. It includes how to set up your new school email account. That's super important because we are going to start to officially communicate with you via that new school email address. So please be sure that you check your new school email account on a regular basis. You don't want to miss information about how to register for classes or orientation or any of that good stuff. So please be sure you check your new school email.